What's up, everyone? Chris here from MTR Network, and we're back with another movie review. This week's movie is Tomb Raider. This is the director of this one is new, and I haven't really heard of him. I know he's done some, I think, smaller films. I think his name is Roar Uthaug. I'm probably mispronouncing that wrong because I just couldn't find anything on him. I did some quick look up, but it stars Alicia Vikander, has Walton Goggins in it, Daniel Wu. Yeah, so here's the thing. This is another movie that's based off a video game, and movies based on video games have not had they haven't had the revolution that comic books movies have had. Like, say what you want about comic movies, there was definitely a change. I mean, I'm gonna even put this all in the MCU. I would say around like 2000 when you got X-Men. You can even go a little bit further and say 1998 when you got Blade. I mean, comic books went from being jokes to, hey, we can actually make these and make decent to good enough movies. I mean, as much as I rail on the DCEU and how they've messed up, I mean, and they definitely have some really bad films, they're still a lot better than the things that I got when I was growing up. Unfortunately, video game movies just have never had that for some reason, and I'll get into that a little bit later about why I think that is. But like, if you look up like video game movies and their average scores and average review scores, I think the highs are like in the 40s. Like, they never break 50. They're almost never good. It's just they leave a disappointment. And I'll say this I'm talking about like pure movies based off of video games. So like things like Jumanji don't count. The upcoming Ready Player One doesn't count. I mean, they take video game elements, but when it comes to actually, you have like in this case Tomb Raider, which is and I think this movie is based more along not like those early games like the 2001 Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider. This is based off of like the 2013 rebooted series that was more grounded. Stop paying attention to just having Laura be some chick with huge boobs that ran around and swan dived all the time. Like, the new 2013 games are really great. They have a really great story. Like, you really can enjoy them. So it made sense that they would want to turn this into a movie. And again, let me kind of spoil the review and just say, I think this is probably one of the better, if not best, video game movies that has been made. It still leaves a lot to be desired. Like, they still make these silly mistakes that I don't know why they're doing and why nobody's picked up on how easy it should be to make a video game movie. I'm gonna go through again, like I normally do, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and then I'll come back to this idea about why what the fuck the problem is with not making good video game movies. So, what works for this film? First up, I think Alicia Vikander was, I don't want to say she was been my first choice, but she was definitely a good choice for this. I mean, she can act. You remember her from The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Ex Machina. Like, she was a good choice for this character to play Lara Croft, and I think she does a really good job. Now, I'll get into some of the direction they gave her for the way she portrayed Laura. I have some issues with, but her herself, I think she can be funny when she needs to be. She can. The thing that I think make the video game, the newer video game, the rebooted one, works so well is you have this female character that a lot of people will look like, a lot of men will overlook because she's this tiny woman and there's nothing that she can do. She's not this tough, and I think Alicia Vikander kind of portrays that really well in the fact that she is that tough, she is that determined, she is that brave, and so I think that she was a really good choice for that. Going along the same lines, I think that they did a good job with some of the action scenes. I mean, they're definitely heavily scripted, or some of them are definitely heavily CGI'd. I can't remember what the budget for this movie is. I can't imagine it was over 100 million. Maybe it was. I mean, but and I'm not saying that to be bad. Like, it looks fine enough. It looks good enough. The action scenes can be told. Like, there's one scene where she's, and it kind of reminds you of the video game where she's trying to crawl along the bottom of this rusted out airplane that is suspended over a waterfall, and it can be kind of intense. And I think they captured the intense moments of, the video game. Now, I do kind of wish that they had played more with the camera angles and played more with how you see them really get you. I think, kind of spoiling what I was going to say at the end, but I feel like one of the things that's missing from movies that take on video games is when you're playing a video game, you're into it. Like you are involved in it. You feel like you're part of the adventure. And I think in order to do that with movies, I think you have to play with the camera angles. You have to make it so that you feel like you're inside the game and you're seeing this character and play with how they do with that. But even without that, I think that they did a really great job with getting that intensity of the moments there. I also think that, I mean, it's a very serious attempt to do this game, to do this movie right. Like, I think a lot of times when directors come in or studios come in to try to make these movies, they don't respect the source enough, so they don't take it seriously. And I think that's one of the reasons why video game movies have not had the revolution that comic movies have. When you do comic movies, people take that shit seriously, and they know that the general audiences are not going to put up with bullshit. I kind of feel like with video game movies, they haven't figured that out. But with Tomb Raider, they definitely clearly wanted to make this film and make it a good film. And there definitely are problems, but, you know, they put care into it. They put time into it. And I think that overall, they condensed some of, when you get onto the island and when you get to her actually working to, you know, to figure these things out, they sort of kind of follow the game stuff there a little bit. And they're not bad. Like I said, let me put it this way. I walked out of this movie and to me, I was like, it's okay. It's fine. It wasn't offensive. It didn't make me angry at somebody. And I'm prepared for this. Like, I had recently just watched the 2001 Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider film, and good God, it is terrible. Like, it's one of those films that makes you angry for several levels. Like, one, the camera angles almost always being on Angelina's chest. Like, just grow the fuck up. And two, it had nothing to do with, like, the video games. It was just like, this is stupid. It's clearly a cash grab. You don't get that feeling from this film here, from this 2018 Tomb Raider film. You don't get that. You feel like they actually cared and they were trying to make this film and try to do a story that shows this young girl who has lost her father, struggling with that, coming into her own, and finding out the secret about her father, and then trying to go out and find out what happened to him. And I think that they put... I'll say that for... I'm about to say something I was going to get into, some things I didn't like, but you can definitely tell that they put care into it. And like I said, I think that the action scenes are decent enough. You have some really good actors in this film, even though some of them aren't used to their greatest potential. I mean, it's a well put together cast. And that works for me. So I'm beating around the bush. So let me just get to some of the things I didn't like. The first thing I didn't like is, I mentioned this kind of before, I didn't really like the direction they gave Alicia for playing Lara Croft. And I think that goes to the whole idea of what they were trying to do here. It's very, very clear to me that they wanted this. They're trying to make at the very least, a sequel or a trilogy of films with this. Like, this is not going to be the only Tomb Raider film. As long as it does well at the box office, they do. And by doing that, what they did is, I feel like they gave her the direction of being, like, the way they made Laura is, she is this, yes, she's the rich heiress to the Croft fortune, but she doesn't want to sign the paper to say that her father is dead, even though he's been gone for 7 years. And so she doesn't have that money. So they open up the film with her she's fighting in a gym, in a sparring match in an MMA gym, and the gym owner comes over later on saying, "Hey, you haven't paid your bill." She's like, "Oh, well, I don't have the money right now." And I'm like, it was very, very annoying, because it's like, yo, I know that she's rich, so this whole I don't have the money type deal is kind of ridiculous. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to see that she's been so devastated by her father leaving and not being around that she's kind of lost her way and she doesn't want to sign the paper to say that he's gone. And the problem I have with this is, to me, what I think of Lara Croft, especially in the games and just who this character is, she's a highly intelligent, and not saying that this character in the movie isn't, but she has all these degrees. She's into archaeology. She's into history. She knows all this stuff. And Vikander's character in this movie really isn't. Like, she eventually, at some point, she does show that she has this knowledge there, but it isn't her passion. And so this is kind of like an origin of Tomb Raider. It's like, they call it Tomb Raider, but it should have been called like the origin of the Tomb Raider or something like that, because she's not really a Tomb Raider. That's not her passion. She ends up doing this stuff because she finds her dad's materials and she wants to find out what happened to him. That's her motivation. Like, the Lara Croft I think of when I think of the video games and everything like that, her motivation is knowledge, to find this stuff out. She understands this stuff. She has a hunger for it. She has a drive for it. That's what motivates her. In this movie, her motivation is literally just being the young girl who's looking for her father and looking for what happened to her father. And there's nothing wrong with that story. I just don't think it's Tomb Raider. And I think that and so that leads to some other problems with the film. Like, I would say the first 90 minutes of this film is kind of just drag. It doesn't really get to the point of Tomb Raider. It doesn't get to the point of her doing things that you, as a fan of the character, somebody who's, because let's be honest here. I mean, the people that are going to be most motivated to go see this film are going to be those that were fans of the character. And I just don't feel like they give you that until like a good 60 to 90 minutes into the film. Like, it's, I was talking to Phenom here, because we're going to be doing our auto review for this, and we had two theories. My theory was they should have started the film with her and Daniel Wu's character on the boat. The boat crashes on the island where her father was at, and then they start the movie from there. He said that they should have started her already on the island, already like feel like she's been there for a while, fighting for survival, and then fill the backstory in with flashbacks. Both of those would have been better movies to me, because you would have actually been able to get right into what this movie's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about a female protagonist who is fighting for her survival and also doing this archaeology shit around. Like, that's the essence of the game. Instead, you get, it takes a good 45 minutes before I think she even meets Daniel Wu's character and finds out that she needs to go out to this island and things like that. Like, it's kind of a drag. and I feel, again, going back, I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to make this into an origin of a trilogy. And so they decided they needed to front load all that stuff up front and kind of build the character. So at the end of the movie, she's basically, and I hate when they do this, the end of the movie is when she's kind of like the Tomb Raider now. And I'm like, oh God, like, you didn't need to do that. Like, play the fucking video game. If you play the fucking video game, like, I think this is the biggest problem with video game movies is they're trying to, like, I get when you have a comic book movie and you have to adapt the story in the comic book to the movie. I get why you have to make changes and you can't just follow that. But here's the thing with video game movies. Video games have scripts. They have story scripts. You take that story script, you make it into a movie script, you have a fucking movie. Like, it's so easy to do. The 2013 video game starts with her on the ship. The ship crashes, you go from there, you figure it out. Like, you figure out the story as you go out. There are flashbacks, there are recordings of her father and she's going through this stuff, and you get this. You're able to, like, get into character, understand the story from there. And this movie has scenes like that where it starts off with her going to, they had the crash, her and Daniel Wu and all that stuff. Like, it's there. They just try to fill in all the stuff that honestly is unnecessary and nobody cares about. Like, I didn't care about that shit. And it wastes time to get to the part. Like, once you get past that 90 minutes, you get to this end where they then cram in all the stuff with her conflict with Walter Goggins' character, the identity of Trinity as being behind all this stuff. You know, I'm not gonna give spoilers away, but things that happen on this island, and then her actually entering, and then the first, like, she doesn't enter into the first tomb in this film. I want to say into the last 20 minutes of the film, and that's just ridiculous. Like, it's Tomb Raider. She doesn't enter into a tomb until 20 minutes to the end of the film. Like, come on, guys. Like, that's not what we're here for. Like, the last 45 minutes of this film, I feel like, I don't want to say they're great because I feel like they kind of condensed everything too much. But it's like, oh man, this is what we were waiting for the entire time. Like, first 90 minutes of the film, I'm literally checking my watch and going like, what the fuck's going on here, man? Like, let's get to the point. The other thing too is I feel like sometimes this film relied too much on Laura having to rely on other people because she wasn't prepared. Like, in the video game, she makes her first bow and arrow. She when she gets injured, she has to fix herself. In this kind of game, like, she gets injured one time and somebody else sews her up. She finds, like, she doesn't make her own bow and arrow. It's just like they missed an opportunity to make this the survival game that they're trying, the survival movie they're trying to make it as. It's not. It's not a survival movie. It's just plain Jane. She got stuck on the island. There's some bad people there. She's trying to do that. Like, there's nothing really, anything that separates it from, other than some iconic things like the bow and arrow and the pickaxe. There aren't any really things that really go, oh, this is Tomb Raider. This is the stuff that this is pulling from. It's just, it's kind of generic. It really is. And that goes to another problem is, I don't think they use the other actors in this film to their greatest potential. I mean, you have Daniel Wu, who, if you watch Into the Badlands, you know what this man can do. And he doesn't really do anything in this film. Like, he's kind of pointless and worthless. And, I mean, he's just that you could have replaced Daniel Wu with anybody else. Like, he's only in this film because he's Daniel Wu, and that's it. And I'm like, you're wasting so much talent and so much potential with him. There's so many things you could have had him do. I mean, and I'm not saying that you always need to have Daniel Wu out here kicking ass and doing kung fu, but like, he has his own TV show. Like, this is like, use him. And it's like, it was vastly underused. And same thing with Walton Goggins. I think this goes back to the idea that you don't meet him until about, again, I would say 60 to 90 minutes into the film. I would say that if you started with Laura already on the island, you could have gotten more. You could have gotten more of Walton Goggins, and I love him. I think when you have him when you have him, and he's playing, like, he's always great. He's always charismatic on the screen. Like, you got to use him, and he's there. But I just feel like you don't get enough of him because of the way they told this story, and they were trying to go big. And I think that's when you make a film like this, I don't think starting with the idea that you're going to automatically get a sequel or a trilogy is a bad idea. I think you should write the script, write the movie as if you're not going to get another shot. As if there's not going to be another film, and you can't depend on that. So you put your best foot forward, you tell your hardest hitting story right then and there, and you hook people, and then, I mean, and yet you leave the little elements in there for a larger story, but you don't depend on it. And I feel like this film does so much setup because it thinks that it can fill the rest of the stuff into another film, that if that, like, look, I mean, it's a Murderer's Row coming up. You have this film, which is still going to have to, between this, A Wrinkle in Time, and Black Panther, it's going to be a pretty tight weekend. Next weekend has Pacific Rim, and the weekend after that has Ready Player One. Like, you don't really have, you're not getting a 2 to 3 week cushion where you can kind of build up. Like, hey, look, I'll be honest. Hey, Jumanji came out in the right time. It came out the 3 weeks after Star Wars, and then nothing else came out. So it had legs to keep going between it and Star Wars. They could just keep piling on money, amongst themselves. I don't think Tomb Raider's going to get that opportunity. So I don't know. I feel like it's... I don't think that there was a smart strategy to focus, not really focus, but to spend too much time on thinking that you're gonna get the trilogy here. So, what would I give this film? Because I don't hate it, and I do think it's one of the better video game movies, but I am disappointed in some of the choices they made, and I definitely think it could have been a lot better had they focused. But I also didn't leave going, that was terrible. Um, I'm really tempted to give this a 7 out of 10, but I don't want to go that high. Uh, but you know what? I'm going to. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7 out of 10. Because I think that, I'll put it this way. I'll take more of these kind of movies, these kind of video game movies, are a step in the right direction versus anything else. Like, I didn't see Assassin's Creed, but I had no desire to. I heard that Warcraft wasn't that bad, but again, when you say it wasn't that bad,